I've got a couple of videos coming up later on too. It's the Babylonian zodiac and the arrival of Ophiuchus, the 13th sign. And it's a bit of a disjointed video. There's quite a lot going on in there, and just trying to explain what the 13th sign is and where the zodiac is. Now, I titled the two videos that are premiering at 2200 hours and 22:45 respectively. I titled them Babylonian, and I thought it prudent to explain what Babylon is. Now, the Israelites, or the Jews, the Yahuda, those related to Yah, and those individuals are those that clean their house and meditate. They are the individuals that respond to the teachings of the character called Jesus. And there's other characters as well. You know, in the world you've got Muhammad, and the side of Islam that lends itself to truth is the mystic Sufis, and they understand it. And there's other ancient texts as well, and they all have the same message. It's go within, clean your house. So what is Babylon? So Babel is confusion. It's a Hebrew word. And if you look at the world, do you see order or do you see chaos? Does it appear to you that the governments or the so-called powers that be, they are not being at all? They're all doings. But are they trying to give people the impression that they are producing order out of chaos? Which is utter madness, because they have no order themselves. When you clean your house and you meditate, you are actually structuring this, and then there's order out of your own individual chaos, and then you're able to rule your kingdom with an iron rod. Now, in the West, when you hear the term rule the kingdom with an iron rod, you associate that with being beaten. It's not quite like that. Your iron doesn't bend. It's solid. It's it's not flexible. So to rule your kingdom with an iron rod is exactly that. Now, this is a process, okay, and as you go along, more things get revealed to you, and then you start to respond to that inner teacher, the 13th sign, which teaches the 12 disciples your cranial nerves, and then you start to rule your kingdom. Now, prior to the Kundalini rising, your cranial nerves ran your brain. All the messages went in and went into the subconscious mind, but she hasn't been entered, and she's like a whore, the whore of Babylon, the whore of confusion. And then she influences Adam, the intellect, and it all just becomes a horrible mess. In other stories, the whore of Babylon is called Lilith. But those that clean their house, they've raised the energy, they're meditating. When you meditate, the mind isn't there, and the spirit, the 13th sign, goes in, kisses Sleeping Beauty, wakes her up from her deep sleep, and the 7 dwarfs, the chakras, and then everything starts to shape and form. Order comes out of the chaos. The subconscious mind becomes the divine feminine, and then she influences Adam, the enlightened intellect, and then you start to rule your kingdom. Instead of the information coming into your body, controlling everything. You're assessing the information that's coming into your body, and you are responding accordingly. You're no longer reacting, because the time of the act is finished. It's over. Now, as this process unfolds over time, it is a confusing thing. But that's just the passing of Babylon. And as the mind realizes more, it understands that it's being led. And then later on in the journey, you'll understand that you are leading it. You are the 13th sign, and the ego, the thing that you use to express yourself, as I'm doing now, is then a servant. And you'll also understand that nobody has ever seen me or ever heard me. You only ever see the avatar that I work through, and you only ever hear my avatar's voice. Because you see, the strange character that everyone calls Jesus in the book, it says he's nothing to look at, because you can't look at consciousness. It's not physical. It's not quantifiable. It just is. So that's the level of consciousness that you operate at, knowing full well that the story's just a story. And the avatar, the body, is a tool. And that's why the character, Jesus, who was called actually Yahusha, which means the implement of Yah, or the tool of Yah. That's Messiah, which is Ma Asa Yah, which means the implement of Yah. Okay, and these things will you'll have that internal realization as you overcome your internal confusion. The Israelites went into captivity in Babylon, and then they were spread out all over the world. But now they're waking up, and they begin to realize who they really are. And they're being called out. They're being drawn to religious texts, or they have a deep distrust of authority. They don't want to be a part of the society or culture anymore. They find it repugnant. They despise being led, choosing to lead themselves with the spirit of their own consciousness, and not afraid to do what needs to be done. And there are personal sacrifices along the way. But those things are very necessary, no matter how painful they appear to be at the time, because it's freeing yourself from Babylon, both internally and externally. So it's written in the scriptures, come out of her, referring to the whore of Babylon. So as you overcome your own Babylonian illusions, as you free yourself from Babylonian captivity, the confusion of captivity, as an individual, you'll then start to see that the rest of the world is still very much in the grips of Babylon. But that's none of your business, because the message isn't for everybody. Jesus said, I've come for the Israelites. And an Israelite is somebody who cleans their house and goes within. If you don't do that, then you're missing out massively. Babylon confused everything. because their consciousness is lowly and little. And when your consciousness is lowly and little, you might have an intellectual understanding, a knowledge understanding, but you've had no experience. And that alone will stop you from proceeding. And you've got to watch the mind as well, the mind that's in Babylon, because it will try to deceive you. Now, those of you that are not, out in the outer court, but you're already inside the temple, so to speak, you'll recognize that in others, and you'll try to assist them accordingly. The rest is up to the individual. It's all about the individual. And those that have been called out and have the Spirit in their house already, but haven't quite realized it yet, you're going to realize it. Because there's going to be lots of shaking going on. Things are going to be shook up. And it'll be a period of internal conflict as the wolf and the lamb are fighting it out for dominance. Let me tell you something. If you're wise, the lamb will win, and the wolf will lie down. In other words, when the wolf lies down, it's that meditation has tipped the balance, and now the wolf recognizes its position and understands. That's gnosis. That's the beginning of the journey. That's the beginning of knowledge of good and evil. And the wolf is the ego that's experiencing the separation of illusion. But as the wolf begins to overcome the separation, or the illusion of separation, it then realizes it's just a story. And a story is not real. And if it's not real, what the fuck are you fighting for? So it lies down with the lamb. Because the lamb is consciousness. The wolf is just a story. So, that's Babylon. Internal and external. So it's not just the police or the army. It's society and culture across the entire globe. Babylon, lands of confusion. So, but when you overcome it as an individual, you'll see it for what it really is. And as you start to see it for what it really is, what has been seen cannot be unseen. And part of those processes can be quite ugly, painful. But such is the nature of waking up to what is real and what is not real. That's why that weird character Jesus said, it is difficult. It is difficult. It's testing. It is not, it's not for the faint of heart. It will test you for good reason. And you'll have your ass handed to you, but not for, but for good reason. It's not out of maliciousness or anything. It's because it's freeing you from mental bondage, from a type of slavery that you've created for yourself, and all that shit has got to be undone. it has to go. Because it weighs you down. It keeps you lowly and little. And makes you small. But as that shit starts to come off, you rise up. And you become upright. And because you've been tested, and you prevailed, you won't bow down again. You won't be fooled again. And that's what it's all about. Because no longer will you look outside yourself for validation. You'll always look within yourself. And you'll find the truth there. And you'll find others that have had the same process, which is fine. But they'll still be very much individuals. Never a collective. Individuals. Divine individuals. Godlike individuals. In his image, after his likeness. Now, as these things reveal themselves, you'll start to understand that his likeness and his image is very, very different from the dogmas that have been spewed into society and culture from the whorehouse of religion. I'll let you think about that before the Babylon videos premiere. Enjoy them. Have a good night.